Welcome everyone to Screenwalks. My name is Marco and I'm digital curator at Fotomuseum Winterthur in Switzerland. Screenwalks is a collaborative program initiated by the Photographers Gallery in London and Fotomuseum Winterthur. This series of fortnightly live-streamed events is a joint effort by both institutions to investigate the changing role of photography in its digital and networked forms. Every Screenwalk is led by an artist, a curator, or a researcher performing guided explorations of the places where their core practice takes place. Through our 45 Screenwalk events to date, we have been led on several online image platforms. We explored digital image technologies and looked at different communities within online visual culture. All of this always through the eyes of expert tour guides who allow us to see images through their screens and through their eyes. So please make sure to visit our archive on screenwalks.com to check the recordings of all our previous events. Also, please remember that if you have found Screenwalks useful for your professional or personal interest, you can become a subscriber with a monthly donation. So for €7 per month, you support the program and its artists and also get a personalized folder on folders.screenwalks.com. There you'll receive files and extra contents from the artists and researchers of Screenwalks. So also thanks to our most recent subscribers for joining folders and supporting Screenwalks. And we hope they're enjoying the goodies in their folders that we have selected for them. And for the others, go to screenwalks.com and become a folder subscriber, support the program, be part of its community, and receive surprising and exciting files. Now, back to our program today. For those of you in Zoom, your microphone should be muted. If not, please go ahead and mute it now. This event is being recorded and will be archived, so please turn off your camera if you do not want to be recorded. Feel free to send questions to me or John privately or in the public chat in Zoom, and we'll bring your questions to our guests at the end of the event or throughout the lecture.
Hi from me too. I'm John Uriarte, curator of the digital programs at the Photographers Gallery in London. Today, we will explore one of the most popular, banal, mistreated, ambiguous, and exciting artifacts of visual network culture, the screenshot. We have invited Dunja Nešović to share her recent publication, Print Screen, The Lazy Art of the Screenshot, including more than 30 artworks and essays by artists, curators, and researchers. Print Screen has been published by the Institute of Network Cultures in Amsterdam, and it builds on a previous essay that Dunja wrote titled No Shot Like the Screenshot, Banal, Sublime, and Dangerous. Both the essay and the book look at the screenshot itself as a widely accessible medium which doesn't require any particular visual or technical skills to be produced. The extreme easiness of the screenshot has made it a target for those who tend to underestimate popular culture, while the screenshot culture itself keeps on being enriched through its widely variety of practices, such as an aesthetic instrument for artists, a surveillance asset for social control, a memory source for the everyday, a micro-targeted meme for political campaigns, or as the evidence of a particular place and time on the internet, among many others. We are very happy and excited to have Dunja with us today to help us navigate through the specificities of the screenshot and its multiple notions and possibilities. A short bio of Dunja Nešović, who is a new media researcher focused on investigating social media, digital cultures, and visibilities. She explored the contemporary forms of social media expression and connection on TikTok on her MA thesis, Ways of Being Visible, Visibility of the Lesbian Identity on TikTok. As well as in the article, This Is Meant for You, a manifestation of the algorithmic imaginary on TikTok. She wrote for the journal Kunstlich. That's all from my side. Thank you, Dunja, so much for being with us today. The screen is yours.
Hi, thanks, John and Marco, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, and also thanks to all of the participants for joining me on this screen walk today. So I'm not going to beat around the bush too much. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen with you so we can start. Okay, perfect. So on today's screen walk or screenshot walk, if I will be too bold to name it like that, I want to focus on two main points I kind of identified when exploring the screenshot. And the one is that the screenshot's mediality is eerie, to borrow Mark Fisher's concept of the eerie. And the other one is that the screenshot is the networked image of our ubiquitously screened present. I was also happy to learn that the screenshot was named the networked image by Magdalena Tischle-Carver in the upcoming book on the networked image, edited by Katerina Slaus and Andrew Dudney. And I'm also quite curious to see how she also conceptualized that network character of the screenshot once the book is published. I learned this from the abstract. So, but before I go into these specificities, I do want to make clear that I strongly believe that the screenshot is not a photograph. That is also something that I kind of promoted with this screen walk with in the blurb. And the reason why I'm starting with that is because the screenshot so far in its theoretical conceptualization, from what I found, has been extensively compared with photograph, with the medium of photography, either through emphasizing the numerous ways the screenshot does remediate photography, or even calling screenshot virtual or in-game photography, mainly as in context of theorizing the screenshot photography within video games. So I'm just going to leave these little two screenshots here from Jan Schwelch's text on the screenshot. I think just a little bit of a disclaimer, I probably will be a little bit careless, academically careless with my references. I'm not going to probably mention the complete, title and everything, but following this screen walk, I will be uploading a list of bibliography that I found so far on the screenshot that I also use for this screen walk. So it's going to be like a nice reference point after this as well. This type of comparison between the screenshot and photography instinctively reminded me of when I had film theory classes years ago in my bachelor studies, that I learned that the first comparison between actually the first, as you can see here, the first serious work on film theory, the Hugo Münsterberg's text names the film photoplay. So you can see that there's this strong emphasis on the previous medium that kind of resembles the film the most at that point. So in that sense, I'm kind of not surprised that the screenshot has been over compared to photography in its theoretical infancy, since mapping out and analyzing things that are already familiar and intelligible kind of marks this first steps to really defining a new medium. There are also several quite notable similarities between the screenshot and photography that mustn't be overlooked, and I'm also not arguing that they are not there. So both of these media create stillness from an otherwise dynamic and moving environment. The screenshot bears strong indexical and iconic resemblance to the content that is being captured. It both represent a document and presume active witnessing and world making through perception and capture. However, let's take a screenshot and see what happens. I'm just going to do it right now. I also want to try and, but I'm not really sure that it's going to be, that it's going to read through the Zoom call as well. I'm going to, for example, try and lower my screen brightness, which for you is, I guess, the same as it was before, yeah. Anyways, for me, it's not, so you just have to take my word for it. And I'm going to take a screenshot again. Let's take a look at the final result. You can't really see that that happened. The screen brightness is at the most, I think, in general. So basically what you can already see from the screenshot, there is no signs of mediation between the object of the image and the final image that takes the form of the screenshot. Moreover, there is no way for me as an author to make any types of adjustments to this image, such as, you know, lowering and higher brightness, contrast, white balance, all of these things you have with photography. And I just want to reflect on that peculiarity with the screen brightness. For example, in the print screen, the publication that I had the chance to edit that John already mentioned, there is a text by Ulrich Richtmeier that kind of, he based his analysis of the screenshot of right on this peculiarity of the screen brightness. And he noted that the screen functions more like a viewfinder on a camera rather than the visible screen always being the object of the screenshot. So in that sense, the screenshot always represents what the machine or the human who programmed the machine wants us to see, what is programmed to be visually available to the user, and even when it's not, such as it is in the case with the screen brightness. So when taking a screenshot, there is no also additional device that mediates between the object of the image or the human taker, which kind of brings me to the first specificity of the screenshot. In Bolter and Grusin's terms, that would be called extreme immediacy. Immediacy is this tendency of a medium to erase itself, to give us an illusion that the viewer is standing in direct contact with the mediated contact with the mediated content. However, I don't know, I'm going to give a little bit also a brief introduction to Bolter and Grusin's theory, because I find it quite useful when talking about the screenshot. So in their book Remediation, they outline a few ways. They made a definition of how new media are always remediating or integrating certain characteristics of old media into themselves. And they also are focusing on how new media I know that it's a contested term, and it was new media in the moment of writing the book, which was a bit over 20 years ago, but how new media have this logic of remediation actually encompasses a double logic of immediacy and hypermediacy. So immediacy already mentioned, and hypermediacy refers to a completely opposite process where medium is completely opaque and present and also self-reflective in some ways. So screenshot also works with this double logic of remediation, because on the one hand, there's this extreme immediacy in which you can't really see another medium. There is actually no other medium that is standing between the image taker and the object of mediation. But however, there is also this logic of hypermediacy. And here I want to also refer to Jacob Gabory, who also wrote a great series of essays on the screenshot for Photo Museum Winter Tour. And he knows that the screenshot represents always a secondary mediation. The first mediation, of course, being the computer graphics by themselves, since they represent a visual representation of the code. So in that sense, the contents of the screenshots are always previously mediated. And so there is always this hyper mediation when we look at the screenshot, because it never represents an previously unmediated reality. Another point in this first segment is that also I would like to refer to Willem Flusser, who wrote about technical images, which are the images taken with the aid of apparatuses or devices. And he knows that one of the important parameters for taking a technical image is also a visualization. So basically visualization belongs to the human image taker. Before creating any type of technical image, they first need to visualize it and then use the device appropriately to bring their imagination to the fore with the image. And I also have a little a quote by yes. So he notes on photography. I'm going to read the quote as well. So the photographer visualizes a house as houses seem to be outside in the outside objective world. Then he takes an apparatus to grasp with concepts such as perspective or shutter speed what he has visualized. The apparatus calculates these concepts automatically, and the photographer presses a button to release the machine to carry out these calculations, making the visions of the house into an image. So even though the screenshot can be classified as a technical image in a sense that it's created with the aid of a device, there is not a process of visualization happening when taking a screenshot. So basically what you see, what you get on the screen, and also within the screenshot, there is no in-between process of a human that can kind of influence the final form of the image in that sense. So this lack of visualization that belongs to the screenshot, as well as another medium apart from the computer, smartphone, or even smart TV. Now, I didn't know that you can also take screenshots with smart TVs until I started this research, but yeah, fun fact. Makes the mediality of the screenshot ghostly in a way. So it's a medium that is always, that is invisible, but is always present and ready to act once summoned. In my perspective, they also, the screenshots ontologically and aesthetically more resemble the futuristic fantasies of capturing the images directly with our eyes, only based on the techniques of the screenshot and their outcome that is quite, I mean, identical to what has previously, to the pre-photographic reality, I guess, or pre-screenshotted reality, if I really want to step away from the conceptualization of the screenshot as a photograph. So in that sense, I would also kind of, define screenshot mediality as eerie in Mark Fisher's terms. And I'm going to quote him here, and because he says that the sensation of the eerie occurs either when there is something present where there should be nothing, or there is nothing present where there should be something. So in that sense, screenshot as a medium is always both present and absent It occurs when summoned, but it doesn't really make itself visible, not even both in the process of image making as well as in the media, in the screenshot itself as the final outcome. So I think the eeriness, that brings me to my second point, the eeriness of screenshots doesn't only come from their technical processes, but also from the final image itself. And screenshot is quite uncanny. So both in the colloquial term of something, of uncanny, meaning that something is almost indistinguishable from another, but also in this psychoanalytic Freudian sense of evoking this discomfort of familiar, unfamiliar, or yeah. So the screenshot basically, I'm going to then move on to another quote by Winifred Gerling on the screenshot. So he says that if the screen is filled with the screenshot of the previous status of the screen, the difference only becomes apparent when attempting to operate within the screenshot. So the screenshot is taken as reality that has been on the computer screen and pixel precise. It's a strange confusion with reality that could never occur in photographs. The latter were only confused with nature early on. Otherwise, the photograph has always been understood as representation. So there's this uncanny identicality of the screenshot that kind of makes it this doppelganger of the interface that is completely inoperational. Through the screenshot, as Gerling would also put it, and given that the computer generated images of the screen that usually have a utilitarian function come to the full stop while through being screenshotted. So there's this type of like, it becomes a sort of a death mask or an interfacial ghost, this screenshot that really disallows me. For example, even in this screenshot, I cannot operate with this text as I would be able to do in Adobe Reader or any other software that allows me to do so. So it kind of evokes this uncomfortable feelings that, I mean, I'm not going to go that far and compare it to death as it usually goes in psychoanalysis, but to put it on a more, I guess, mundane level, this anxiety and frustration when our computer freeze and become inoperable. What also is present here is this lack of tactility that screenshot then presupposes. Paul Frosch, in his conceptualization of the screenshot, noted that screenshot's tactility is present, in its possibility to be manipulated as an object, as a digital image. However, screenshot presupposes a strong lack of tactility as well, especially, I guess, when encountered on the devices that have the touch screen, because no matter how many times we tap the flat surface or move our mouse through it and try to click on it, nothing basically happens. So I guess that's kind of the end of the first part, where this argument of the eeriness of screenshot comes from. I'm going to move to the second part, that the screenshot is the networked image, by kind of exploring a few technical and also cultural specificities of the screenshot that really link it or are inherently embedded in its networked environment of origin. The first point there is the question of authorship, that I'm also going to start with another quote. yeah, I wasn't allowed to use PowerPoint for this presentation, so I feel like I'm cheating a little bit by only using screenshots to guide you through all of this. So I hope yeah, that's fine. So this quote by Paul Frosch on the screenshot goes as follows. So the screenshot is an image of the state of the device as it presents itself for viewing and interaction with the user, as subject to human intentionality and temporality. It preserves an instant of what we could call the screenscape, the dynamic, contingent, humanly oriented face of the device as it appears on the screen. To stretch an analogy somewhat, the screenshot is the selfie of the device. And yeah, to begin, I want to focus on his naming the screenshot the selfie of the device. So what is a selfie? Selfie is a mechanical image form that is really connected strongly to our digital environments and social media environments today. And then within that image forms, the taker and the object of the image are one and the same. So in that sense, naming the screenshot the selfie of the device mainly locates the authorship of this image in the device itself. So also, when making that distinction between the object and the image taker, historically and theoretically, there has always been some distinctions between the two that reflected certain questions of power dynamics, representation, and you know, possession, etc. But this dynamic is really complicated when talking about selfie in general, and especially when talking about screenshot as a type of a selfie, because it really fuses the lines between the image maker, the object of the image, as well as the human and the machine in the process. So in his account on the screenshot, Jan Welch notes that one of the most important characteristics of the screenshot as documentation is an irrelevance of authorship that kind of points to this higher machinic objectivity of the screenshot as the image, because the human interventionality in creating a screenshot is so little. But in technical terms, screenshots are authored in this intersection between humans and the machine, and the human who programmed the machine. One of the examples for that I also used in the long form, which I find quite useful to prove this point, I guess, is in the instance of the platforms such as Mubi and Netflix disallowing screenshots of their copyrighted content because it counts as infringement. So the users in these instances are not allowed to take a screenshot. Their perception is not allowed to be validated as creative, and they not only that they do not have any power in intervening with the final form of the photo in terms of, you know, light, color, contrast, perspective, etc. They don't even have the power to actually preserve the contents of the screen they're currently viewing. So in that sense, the screenshot is never only connected through, you know, the affordance of the device to take a screenshot as well as the human taking a screenshot. But to be able to take a screenshot, it employs a whole network of elements and programmed elements, coded elements that users are not even, I guess, being aware of until they take this forbidden screenshot that won't appear on their screens later. So what then is, how is authorship then reflected or conceived in the screenshot. So I would say that authorship of the screenshot is mainly based on what Nicolas Bourriot named post-production, the aesthetic of post-production, that is the use and remix of already available data. So with post-production, artists make use of already existing objects and cultural forms, and it's also quite emblematic for the appearance of the web. So whereas the screenshot doesn't necessarily have to be an artwork, its creative and aesthetic parameters are based on the selection and appropriation of what is already there. I'm just going to then, you know, put on some screenshots as a little bit of illustration to what I'm saying. So so if we focus on another element of Frosch's quote, in which he mentioned the screenscape, that kind of points us to this thesis that the screenshot validates the digital environment as equally real as the physical one. And he also says that, like, in the physical space, we cannot occupy the same points of that digital space at the same time. So basically, even if the classical notion of point of view doesn't really apply in screenshot, because there is no, you know, physical changing of perspective that can be visible through the image itself, it still exists with affirming that our digital environments are deeply personal and, you know, as time goes by, more and more algorithmically curated. So the creativity of the screenshotter lies in recognizing that uniqueness and being able to recognize it, select it, and capture it, and potentially, you know, integrate it in an artwork, or just keep on sharing it with the others. So that kind of brings me to the, I mean, this is one way of course, approaching the screenshot, but that was kind of interesting to me because I find that a lot of, you know, peculiarity of the screenshot reflect this weirdness, I guess, of our digital screen environments. And here I would like to reflect on this blog called Screenshot of Despair, that is called the New Aesthetic Poetry. So in this blog, the author of the blog also contributed for the print screen, which was quite nice. But in this blog, a lot of submissions from a lot of other users basically are based on this kind of weird moments they experience in digital spaces that surround them. So in that sense, screenshot kind of as a creative practice belongs to the new aesthetic, or in some other terms, post-digital aesthetic, that David Barry and Michael Dieter define, that the role practitioner in the post-digital aesthetic is marked by the shift from exceptional to ordinary perceptions of digital creativity. And it's also imagined in terms of technique of recognizing patterns and cataloging, curating, interpreting, and transcribing, and then visualizing, then actualizing these engagements as artifacts for potential contemplation. So screenshots' artistic and aesthetic potential is kind of often lies in this notion of finding the strange and trivialized and commercialized digital environment. And as such becomes one of the most emblematic image forms that reflect the current configurations of what we call digital reality. So yes, basically, this segment kind of focuses on, I guess, contents of the screenshot that reflects its networked character. There are also a lot of other ways to utilize screenshots. For example, in his account and screenshot as well, Jacob Gabbery calls it a disposable image, which I find quite interesting and quite true, especially given that, for example, my iPhone now allows me to take a screenshot without even saving it. I can just take a screenshot and then send it to another person. It reminds me also of these photographs of various Wi-Fi routers when you need a password for it. But I feel like with the screenshot, it's much more present, that type of practice of just using it as some sort of quick information that you might want to save for yourself or send to another, that is not as present, I think, in other image making media. That maybe brings me to another segment of the screenshot, and this is I'm going to kind of dip my toes into the debate, the NFT debate of screenshotting minted digital artworks, because I find it just as a good example that kind of places the screenshot in between this in between what is visible and invisible to the regular user of computers or smartphone devices. And I'm just going to start with that. This screen is actually getting more and more chaotic. I hope it doesn't really. So these are kind of the points. Okay. So screenshot as a digital image. I mean, I think it's also kind of important to reflect on, I guess, the digital aspect of it as well. And I'm going to start with talking about authenticity of the screenshot. So I mean, I guess this term is mainly connected to authenticity, maybe in legal aspect. For example, it's really hard to identify if a screenshot is falsely fabricated or not, because the metadata they provide are usually the one that you can also see here. So even in the title of the image that the MacBook saves. So basically it's on the device, on the time of taking the image, and on the format. I don't know if it saves in other formats such as PNG, etc. So, but with the debate on the screenshotted NFTs, it kind of brings another layer of authenticity in question. So if you know, this digital image that we are observing is the original or a copy, is it authentic, is it fake? What then determines that that authenticity and originality as well? And it kind of invokes this Benjaminian discussion on the aura of of digital artwork, since it kind of puts the focus, pulls the focus away from the visual properties of the image and puts it into the operational piece of code, which is the NFT. So NFT is a digital certificate of ownership that is placed on the blockchain. For, I mean, those of you who might not know, I'm going to just give a short introduction. So that basically that certificate of ownership states who the original author of the images and who also owns it through time. So anytime an owner is changed, it also changes on the blockchain. So basically, there is this whole perspective on the NFTs displaces the authenticity of the work from its visual characteristic to the place on the blockchain, and it also doesn't even try to contain its possessional exclusivity, such as it is with the streaming platforms such as Netflix. So as the function of the screenshot allows for immense reproduction and appropriation, I kind of read the purpose of the NFT as a response that seeks to preserve the intended value of the artwork that is not on this, what is visible on the surface, but is rather inaccessible to the, the regular users who can just experience a certain artwork and also try to save it as through the screenshot. So Jan Schwelch also connected the screenshot to Hito Styles concept of the poor image that generates in digital environments and is also marked by low resolution, lack of focus, easy reproducibility and shareability. I mean, in that sense, the screenshot is also a free image that can be created without having to, I mean, I have to just, I guess probably a lot of you are already aware of it, but I need to refer to this, maybe I guess the most popular NFT gallery, the apes. If I want to have this ape right here, I don't have $100,000. I can just do this. I mean, I guess it's not going to be exactly the same. And also a lot of NFT bros like to mention how it's not, the resolution probably also is not the same as the original photo. But I also kind of, in preparation for this screen walk, I kind of went astray into NFT Twitter. So now my algorithm thinks I'm interested and it keeps on giving me the NFT tweets. And there's also like a lot of people who are like, please do not screenshot this because it's mine. Which is also like very much interesting to me because there are also certain arguments online that I found about NFTs and screenshotting that kind of state that, okay, you can also take a photo of Mona Lisa in Louvre, but it's also not the same as if you own it. And also if you have a postcard, it's really not the same as you own it. But I guess with our screen environments, it's a bit more difficult to make those statements because usually the visual and material properties are, maybe they're not the same, but they're quite similar with screenshots and the original images. So with this debate on screenshots and NFTs, I also want to kind of mention this quote by Starl as well, that she knows that the poor image lacks focus due to its low resolution, but she also connects the questions of focus to the visual and narrative purpose of focus. which is to denote power. So she says that the focus identified as a class position, a position of ease and privilege, while being out of focus lowers one value as an image. So in that sense, NFTs kind of direct focus from the visual and material properties of the image to this digital certificate of ownership in order to position artwork's value that is again located in this in the realm of ownership and also monetary value. And this digital artwork can be screenshotted, but NFT can't. The digital information of the screenshot as well as an image is stripped away from the information of the original image. That was kind of interesting for me because Kelly Pendergrast, on her accountant screenshot that she wrote for Real Life Mag, she says that she practices a kind of imagistic resistance with the screenshot since you know, also circulation of the images in our networked environment presupposes a lot of, you know, data tracking. And then she says that when she takes a screenshot, she strips away the original data from their meaning, from its existence actually. And she just appropriates this image with a freshly new data put in place. So in that sense, by disrupting the circulation of data with creating a new piece of visual and digital information, so the screenshot taker disrupts the traceability and computability of the image, which could be used for surveillance and governance on the side of the platforms and other digital identities. Not identities, I'm sorry, entities. And the lack of original metadata means shifting the focus and agency actually from the coded to the visual, because the visual is actually the level that is accessible to majority of the users, while the coded is not. The coded is always something, well, not always, but for the majority of users, of course, something that is really black boxed, inaccessible, and not really possible to meddle with, while the visual level of our interaction with the screen environments is at our disposal, because it is, you know, designed and programmed like this. But then screenshot also inserts itself in that relationship by providing the user with the agency to kind of own or otherwise, you know, intervene with their digital environment. And then the last point for today about the screenshot as a networked image concerns, I guess, the cultural characteristic of the screenshot or cultural function of the screenshot that I would name, I guess, imagistic data valence. Okay, I don't have a lot of images here, but I guess I'm just going to use these ones. So apart from its aesthetic possibilities, the screenshot's potential also lies in its documentary nature. And that type of characteristic of the screenshot as a digital document also presupposes a kind of surveillance that is also present within the screenshotting practice in our digital environments. And so Francis Corey in this text talks about screenshot as images that move digital information between the walls of seemingly private or privatized realms and public displays, just as they threaten to save and circulate media that was assumed to be ephemeral. In each, they play with expected boundaries of digital time and space. So she knows that the screenshots, in that sense, make manifest the concept by Wendy Chun and Sarah Friedland, the concept of leakiness, that presupposes the simultaneously breaching and sustaining assumed boundaries between public and private. I mean, in her text, she used two case studies to illustrate this point. One that pertained to the uses of screenshots to expose a sexual predator, and the one that led, the other case that led to a misfortunate suicide of the teenager when screenshots of her got circulated on the internet. So basically in both cases, the screenshotting practice manifests the power of the digital observer to preserve the instant of the fluid digital environment and leverage or abuse that evidence to their liking. So this type of, that's quite interesting, I think, like a quite interesting perspective or a characteristic on screenshot, because you wouldn't or couldn't, you know, record every conversation you're engaging with. However, in the case of screenshot, all the communication, all the visual communication that takes place through the screen is very easily being, you know, captured and then shared further. And then Caitlin Tiffany, in her text on screenshot, knows that the possibility of your content, you know, being screenshotted institute this latent sense of paranoia, where you have to be extremely cautious about how you conduct yourself on the internet in communication with other people, because that can just be preserved and circulated around if somebody feels the need to do that. So it kind of, Mark Andreevich already named this everyday type of surveillance that is happening on social media, this watching, peer-to-peer watching, this lateral surveillance of the social media that kind of, you know, disciplines the users with the fact that they know that their behavior is both seen and recorded, and might be recorded by other users as well. However, for me, it also reflects something else, this type of surveillance that is called dataveillance, which basically, you know, it's surveillance through the gathering of data, and it's conducted usually by larger digital entities such as platforms. But it always, that surveillance always presumes the existence of a document. So in that surveillance, a target is produced a posteriori, so after something has been done, rather than being surveilled, you know, beforehand with a purpose. So I wanted to also show an example of this that I find quite interesting. So I mean, this type of, you know, the possibility of something being screenshotted really gives the power to the users to, I guess, either, you know, you leverage it for some good cause, or for, you know, just embarrassing their peers, or even something even more extreme. But this one of my favorite Instagram account called Beam Me Up Soft Boy, it's quite fun because the users are submitting oh, okay, I have to log in. I can't even do anything on internet if they don't recognize me as a digital subject. It's really annoying sometimes, but anyways. So this whole account is composed of screenshots of different types of conversations on either dating apps, or, you know, other chat platforms. And it's called Beam Me Up Soft Boy, where, you know, these, I guess, men from the chats are identified as soft boys. And it kind of just reminded me of that power, I guess, the feminist power of gossip by Silvia Federici, where a lot of these interactions are also quite, uncomfortable to watch, or, these people said some things that were clearly not okay. And then once this content is being screenshotted and shared, the power now lies in the hands of the screenshotter, who is exposing, in some cases, sometimes it's really funny and like really, benign, but sometimes the screenshots are of people who are really crossing some lines and boundaries. So, but what's I guess interesting about all this is that users themselves are kind of taking the roles, or kind of internalizing the data valence they're constantly exposed to invisibly by platforms. And of course that's done more or less automatically. There is not a person there is not an FBI agent behind the computer following each and every one of us, as the famous internet jokes would state. But they're actually kind of internalizing this process and mechanisms, and acting up on them in their private usership. I guess I would kind of close on this note, because I kind of came to the end of my talk. And I mean, of course, the I haven't even touched upon, I think, 1% of what screenshots are or can be. But for me, it was kind of important to, I guess, make a distinction between screenshots and photographs, state the weirdness or eeriness of the mediality of the screenshot, and also non-mediality in some way, and also kind of identify a few characteristics, both, aesthetic, technical, and cultural, that really connect the screenshot and embed it in the networked screen environment we all inhabit. So I guess that's all from me now, and I want to thank all of you for bearing with me on this nice summer day.
Thank you so much, Dunja, from us. And also now we invite the audience, of course, to get their thoughts and share their question in the chat. But I think already John and I can start with our own questions. So thanks a lot for just, like starting to scratch the surface, as you said, about the specificities of the screenshot. Also, maybe you want to remind everybody, we cannot even see the publication with my background.
This is the screenshot publication that I had a pleasure to edit. This is the physical form. You also get a little bit of a poster type of thing here. That's a very nice, I guess, collectible. And you can order it for free from the INC website. Maybe I can just go to the website so people can see the...
Yes, wonderful. In the meantime, so I just wanted to start from the beginning, right? This idea of remediation of photography in screenshotting and other sets of technologies keeps reoccurring. And as you said, like technically, from a technical standpoint, there's a lot of differences. Yet the screenshot itself is equipped to resemble so much like the sound of the camera shot, right? Yeah. I'm interested, maybe if you could talk a little bit more about this idea of at least creating the illusion or making this kind of purified trajectory from the analog camera and photography to the screenshot.
So basically, there have been other theorists that I think dealt more with the subject, such as Jacob Gebry, and as far as I'm familiar, he's also preparing a book on that. So from my perspective, I can only speculate on why that is. I mean, I know that the first screenshots, I don't know if we can also name them screenshots in a way, but like the images of the screen were not created within the device itself, but also with an aid of the camera, and they were also used to track, to actually as far as I remember, it was about, tracking the development of interfaces and actually, sharing the screen contents with someone who's not actively seeing it with you in the moment. So there is that logic of, how the first images of the screen, generated, that were created with these devices. But I think maybe what, persists still with these simulated shutter sounds, for example, is also some sort of maybe, familiarizing the user as well with the affordance of the screenshot that is there, as a sort of image making affordance that resembles photography in a way. But I guess, I don't know, I focus so much on the differences between the two media. I was kind of overlooking the reasons behind their similarities. But I also am I feel free to do so, because I also know that other theorists got my back in sense, and they can maybe go a bit deeper in that way, and they will, and I'm happy to read about it.
Thank you from my side too, as well, Dunja, for the screen work. It's been quite interesting to hear not only about your thoughts, but also about all the references and all the scholarship that you've been looking into. One of the things that stick to me is like when you mentioned those images that are not saved on the iPhone and are directly shared. And I was wondering if you say that also, also going back to what you just said, that the screenshot were maybe originally created to share the interface of the computer with others. Will you say that the screenshot was created to be shared instead of to be saved? Because that will be a quite big shift from what photography was originally thought for. And
right.
I thought that was that could be a huge difference in between both mediums.
I don't think I can really decide between one or the other, because there's really a huge variance in how screenshots are used, and there are probably a lot of screenshots that people save and will never show another human being, because God knows what's happening in that screenshot folder. And then others, there is this with iPhone. I use that, for example, constantly, for example, when I need to screenshot a location on Google Maps and send it to someone, I'm not going to save that screenshot because it's not important for me to be saved. So I think, as you what triggered you and as you identified, it does also bring this another level of the screenshot being a networked image. So just going through the networks and not really stopping anywhere. Because, for example, if I do take a screenshot and send it to someone and I didn't save it and they only have it in their WhatsApp images that doesn't automatically save, it just becomes, this connection from one person to the other rather than something to be preserved. So that's actually a very good find.
Because I was thinking that's the definite networked image, in the sense that creating the network is the ultimate goal, instead of creating a network of communication in between two nodes, two people, two machines, whatever. Will be the goal of the image itself, instead of documenting or making an index or anything at all. And another question that I had while we wait for people coming in, you were...
I'm sure we can have questions for you online. We don't need
it's such an interesting topic, at least for Marco and myself. So I guess that we'll have a few questions while
the audience. For the night.
Yeah. I was thinking also, when you mentioned that there was no apparatus in between the person who takes a screenshot and whatever is being screenshotted. But I was wondering, for me, the computer, the keyboard, the mouse will be that apparatus, and the abilities and possibilities of those hardwares and softwares will be sort of like the apparatus. Maybe it's not like just one piece, such as the camera that is so specific and so easily, it's easier to analyze, no, and to focus on. But I don't know, I was just wondering if you have any thoughts on that, or if you have considered the computer and the peripherals of the computer, the keyboard, mouse, as a potential apparatus.
I mean, it's just integrated, I guess, invisibly integrated. For me, it's quite interesting because I mean, there are, as this publication was also named to honor the print screen button, there was actually like a specific button. I mean, I don't have it on my Mac now. I also don't know if other like Windows computer have the print screen button because I haven't seen them in a while. But okay.
A couple at the office today. I was just checking actually.
But even then you need to like use a combination of other keys. So it's not only this one key that you're gonna press and that's like this little apparatus. It's always this kind of combination of different segments of the interface that are also not used only for that. And that's, I guess, why I'm kind of focusing on this like non-mediality of lack of apparatus, because even when there are these keys, they are not the function. Their function for the screenshot is also kind of hidden and also shared with other types of interfacial relations you can have with the machine. So I don't know. I guess I had this thought today. I was thinking about if I would. This also a little bit answers Marco's first question, or just, yeah, a comment to it as well. I was thinking if my perspective on screenshots not being photographs would change if there would be an additional device that would also allow for greater, intervention from the human image maker in the process. So would this, like the literature that I was kind of deeming, okay, so this is theoretical infancy of the screenshot is not a photograph, would that type of literature actually be more relevant than what I'm saying right now if we would have some sort of, maybe not even like a particular device, but like a particular interface that makes the screenshot on the screen, that again simulates the camera, but like in more depth than just capturing the image as is. I don't know. I'm also like really wondering if a majority of that argument is actually based on that lack of a very specific device that also has, I guess, more affordances than just image capture.
At the same time, I wonder, well, two things came to mind. So we had I think it was one of the first screen walks we had with Rock Herms, which I think is also in the publication.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right. And then I think Rock is always making a case, or like he felt very strongly, even in, I think one of the donation to the folders, I think he has something about feeling not recognized by other photographers because his work was only mentioned, only understood as pantallas, right? Like screenshots in a derogative term, right? So I think for him, there was always this idea of claiming the screenshot as photography in order to justify his work. And I like that you're doing the opposite, like, liberate the screenshot from photography, right? So I think there's an interesting tension that also might have to do with this kind of period of time and how it evolved, but the relation with photography and photography history, and maybe more in terms of like the photography field.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's also, I guess, something I also wrote in the long form, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, but I think there is this tendency to also legitimize screenshot as a medium by contextualizing it within photography, and kind of being like, okay, this is like a new type of photography, especially a lot of texts that were written on the topic of video game screenshots and just like legitimizing that as an art practice. But how can you, legitimize something as an art practice when it's screenshot, when it's so banal, when it's just like, okay, I'm just like pressing 2 keys on a keyboard and I basically have no input on how it's going to look like. So yeah, I presume there is this motive for that as well, but I really don't see the need for that. I mean, I think the screenshot is so weird and so amazing that there is no need to just flatten it out with this comparison. I'm not like advocating against noting the similarities, of course, but I think it's strong enough to stand alone as a medium in all its weirdness. So,
and funny enough, since you mentioned in-game photography and computer games, this addition of photo modes, for example, is quite interesting because it takes the purity of the screenshot away from the screenshot, right? Because they simulate all these functions and then they really bring back the simulation of the analog camera. So there is this other paradox in which, like you reintroduce more and more photography and then kind of the screenshotting of the early 2010s in computer games are the one who were actually letting more freedom and creativity to the screenshotter, right? So there is this other component now of like the screenshot becoming more and more independent, or like, more sophisticated at least. But this simulation is created specifically looking to hide all of these screenshotting properties and making it even more in this. It's not just the sound anymore, right? Like now we can change the parameter of the aperture and all of these things that make really no sense in terms of like digital properties, right? It's again an extreme remediation and simulation of the analog tradition.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in these moments it's kind of like the term, for example, virtual photography is really applicable, and it does make sense because of that remediation and simulation. However, I just think in everyday use of the screenshot, it's a bit, far-fetched to call it photography and to compare it so much to photography. I mean, you can, but I think it's just more interesting to see what's beyond it, I guess.
Right, you're missing the point. You're missing all the other interesting stuff, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's okay. Like we can agree on all these things, but let's also see what's happening beyond that. So that's kind of my stance on it.
Absolutely. And I think especially also the last chapter, so to speak, of the presentation was particularly interesting in seeing this idea of the power of the screenshot and how it works within all the system of almost like evidence in network discourse. I mean, of course you showed like a lighthearted one, a funny one, but of course it has other implications as well, which are particularly interesting.
In fact, in relationship to that, and you mentioned that article, I think it's in Real Life magazine, in which talks about the screenshots as like this medium that strips more data than it includes about what has been screenshotted again. And I could see, like, instead of like trying to make a comparison with photography through using the shutter speed or these kind of things, I could see, like, when thinking on the screenshot and photography as a tool for evidence, how problematic both are, in the sense that they both strip all the contextual data from the visual surface. So when you take a photo of someone, you cannot see the name or like any other like demographic data of that person if you don't include it as a caption, let's say. And the same goes for the screenshot. So I mean, I was like seeing a comparison on the problems of photography as an evidence, like as a tool for evidence, instead of like from the like more modernist promises of photography in relationship to authorship and all this kind of ideas.
Yeah, but I have to say that I would be really scared if cameras could recognize our names, etc. Just with who we are. That would really freak me out. So in that sense, I'm kind of glad we're not there yet, and that these evidence are still kind of, this type of evidence is still kind of fickle in that sense. And
yeah, it's also strange that the format of the screenshot doesn't like only focuses on the visual surface, but it doesn't,
exactly.
as an like a computational medium, it doesn't include more metadata. No, I guess that that would be like a really creepy but also interesting medium.
Yeah, I agree there. It would be interesting. I mean, especially for example, if because I'm thinking about these like alternative texts as well that exist on social media, on Twitter, etc. And even that metadata could kind of like generate, if it generates in the moment of taking a screenshot, that can also kind of serve as that type of alternative text that can be used for example, visually impaired people that then hear an AI saying what's happening on the image. So yeah, I don't know. I really am curious to see how screenshot is going to evolve, and if it's going to evolve, if these like big tech corporations kind of like, okay, so screenshot is happening, what can we do with it to make it more appealing, more fun, more engaging? And yeah, I don't know, I'm really curious. And I also I'm curious to see how also all of these, like this current thought on screenshot becomes outdated with these innovations.
Will we have a screenshot nostalgia? Do we already have any? I think we already have poor image.
We already have screenshot nostalgia. I mean, also, a screenshot can be a really big catalyzer for nostalgia as well. I mean, also one of the contributions also by Olia Lialina with her project that captures this like old website with also the interface of old Windows OSs. It's like really, I mean, yeah, of course, there's already screenshot nostalgia. Whenever I also see, the screenshots of the first iPhone screens and contents of the screens, I'm already like, oh my God, we are old, or this is, progressing rapidly. So for sure. It's also an interesting thing, to go in a little bit more, I guess. I didn't really touch upon that so much.
So I guess that maybe on that note we should leave it here. We should wrap up unless there's like any question. It's surprising that the audience has been quite silent, but they are still there.
I guess, as Dunja said, on such a nice summer day, at least here on this hemisphere or in Europe, I guess that the audience is excused. Oh, attention, I have questions. I just received a message. I have received a message from Kate. Please. Please do write your questions and I'll bring it to Dunja. Such suspense. Kate, should I just unmute you? Oh no, okay, here it is. Wait, photography is always compared with cinema. What do you think about screenshot and screen recording? Interesting. So like a side shift.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm maybe equally fascinated with screen recordings. I mean, there are certain. I was talking to a friend about that recently. I think how, for example, in the screenshot you have this inoperable interface. You are trying to click on something, and it's it's not working and you feel kind of like restrained and a bit frustrated, and it just invokes these feelings of frustration. But I feel like with screen recordings, it's additionally, I guess, strange in participating in those things, because things are actually happening. The interface is moving without any participation coming from you. And I think it poses this question of agency. It really strips you additionally away from agency in contact with, for example, screen recordings. Now I'm going kind of meta with this. I don't know. I mean, maybe not always you have these like types of frustration, but that's what comes to mind for me on that level, I guess. Because yeah, I think screen recordings are kind of, for me, harder to watch in that sense, because there's this, kind of, you really want to do something, you really want to click that, but then somebody goes elsewhere and clicks something else, and like you're completely powerless. So I think like screen recordings really emphasize this powerlessness of the viewer and emphasize the frustration even more than screenshots. That's as far as I went with my with thinking about the screen recording so far, but I hope this answers your question. I don't know. I haven't really delved into it super deeply, so I can't drop any names or references right now. But I find them very interesting. Maybe a next point of research.
So thanks a lot, and thanks, Kate. If you have other questions, feel free to write them, and we'll see if we have a moment to bring them to Dunja. If not, I just want to thank you once again, Dunja. Do I understand it correctly that you have a small donation for our folders as well, possibly bibliography?
Yes, I'm of course going. I mean, this PDF is free to download either way, but I'm going to put them in the folder as well, so you have it. And then I also want to create a little bibliography on the screenshot, so anyone who's interested can just start from there and work their way through.
That would be a fantastic addition also for us, and for all of the people, I think, working within the field of digital and network images.
Yeah, definitely. I also want to thank you, Dunja, and also thank everyone who has joined to the Screen World today. Just a reminder that we will be back in 2 weeks with the last Screen World of this season, which will be led by a non-human entity, by a bot. Gaugan bot will be leading the last Screen World of this season on the 13th of July at the same time as today, so we invite everyone to join us again.
But only on Twitch, so the bot will be traditionally performing on Twitch before the summer break or winter break again, depending on the atmosphere. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Dunja, again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.